Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC, was a Greek philosopher and polymath who made foundational contributions to numerous fields, including logic, metaphysics, ethics, politics, and natural science. A student of Plato, he diverged from his teacher in significant ways, particularly in his empirical approach to study the natural world. As the tutor to Alexander the Great, Aristotle's influence extended into the realm of leadership and governance. In ethics, Aristotle's main philosophical position is outlined in his work Nicomachean Ethics, where he proposes the concept of virtue ethics, emphasizing the importance of cultivating virtuous habits to achieve eudaimonia, or human flourishing. He argues that a virtuous life is one lived in accordance with reason, which is the distinctive function of human beings. Aristotle's metaphysics introduces the idea of substances as the fundamental entities of reality and argues for the existence of actual and potential states of being. His teleological view suggests that all things have a purpose or end goal. In politics, Aristotle explores the organization of societies and argues for a mixed government model that balances elements of democracy and oligarchy to achieve stability and the common good. His contributions to logic, with his development of the syllogism, laid the groundwork for deductive reasoning. Friedrich Nietzsche, October 15, 1844, August 25, 1900, was a German philosopher, cultural critic, and philologist known for his profound and provocative ideas. Nietzsche's work encompasses critiques of morality, religion, modern culture, and philosophy, questioning the foundations upon which traditional Western thought was based. His concept of the will to power describes a fundamental drive that underpins all human action, surpassing the desire for survival posited by earlier thinkers. He championed the idea of the Übermensch, Overman or Superman, a figure who creates their own values and meaning in life in the face of the death of God, or the collapse of traditional religious authority. Nietzsche criticized the ascetic ideals and slave morality of Christianity, advocating instead for a life-affirming approach that embraces individualism, self-expression, and the reinterpretation of virtues to serve one's inner vitality. His idea of eternal recurrence challenges individuals to live as though their lives were to occur again and again in the same fashion. Nietzsche's style of philosophy is marked by aphorisms and a polemical approach, and although his work was received with mixed reactions during his lifetime, it has posthumously become influential across various disciplines and schools of thought.
Friedrich, it is a pleasure to engage with a thinker of such depth as yourself. I am curious, you speak of the will to power as the fundamental aspect of existence, but how do you reconcile this with the ideal of achieving excellence through virtue?
Aristotle, your notion of achieving excellence through virtue presupposes a teleological framework, where virtues are means to an end, the end being eudaimonia. However, this world is the will to power, and nothing besides. The will to power, section 1067. I propose virtues are not universal, but tools individuals wield in accordance with their will to power. How might your concept of virtues be reconciled with the idea that they can be manipulated to serve an individual's quest for power?
Friedrich, if virtues are merely tools for the will to power, do they not become empty and subjective, disconnected from the objective good? In the Nicomachean Ethics, I assert, virtue, then, is a state of character concerned with choice, lying in a mean. This being determined by a rational principle, how does the will to power supply a rational principle to determine the mean which is virtue?
Aristotle, your rational principle presupposes a stable foundation for determining the mean. Yet, I have stated, there are no moral phenomena at all, but only a moral interpretation of phenomena, beyond good and evil, section 108. The notion of an objective good, which rationality seeks, may itself be a construction. If virtue is interpreted through various perspectives of power rather than a static rational principle, can we not say that the mean is variable, subject to the individual's power dynamics rather than a fixed moral code?
Friedrich, you challenge the grounding of moral absolutes, yet without stable values, does society not risk descending into nihilism? As I have said, it is through virtue that we live well, for living well consists in things being done well. Nicomachean Ethics, Book I, 7. How then does one live well or do well in a world where morality is fluid and the measure of virtue is not anchored by an objective good but is ever shifting with the tides of individual will and power dynamics?
Aristotle, what does nihilism mean? That the highest values devaluate themselves. Will to Power, Section 2. The risk of nihilism is indeed great when old values debase, yet it is in the crucible of this devaluation that the potential for new values arises. For one to live well in such fluidity, one must become an Übermensch, who has organized the chaos of his passions, given style to his character, and become creative. Thus spoke Zarathustra, on those who are sublime. Living well is thus not adherence to prescribed virtues but the creative affirmation of life and the imposition of one's own will to power. How might we view the good life not as static adherence to virtue but as the dynamic creation of values that reflect a powerful life?
Friedrich, your concept of the Übermensch as a creator of values is a radical departure from traditional morality. Yet, might there be a bridge between our thoughts? In the Politics, I say, man, when perfected, is the best of animals, but when separated from law and justice, he is the worst of all. 1253a31. Could it be that your Übermensch, in creating values, must still adhere to some form of rationality and justice to avoid becoming a tyrant, thus allowing for a society where individuals may strive for excellence in a manner that still respects the flourishing of others?
Aristotle, the possibility of bridging our thoughts is intriguing. Indeed, man is something that shall be overcome. Thus spoke Zarathustra, Prologue, and the Übermensch is an answer to the question of what man can become. However, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Untimely Meditations, Schopenhauer as educator. The Übermensch would not necessarily dismiss rationality or justice but would redefine them according to life-affirming values that transcend herd morality. Could this redefinition be seen not as lawlessness but as the creation of a new order that serves the growth and flourishing of stronger individuals?
Friedrich, if the Übermensch is to redefine rationality and justice to affirm life beyond herd morality, does he not still seek a form of the good, albeit a personal one? In Metaphysics, I wrote, the actuality of thought is life, and God is that actuality, and the self-sufficient actuality of God is life most good and eternal. 1072b2430. Even if we set aside divine conceptions, is there not a parallel in the pursuit of an eternal life of excellence, wherein the Übermensch seeks a life-affirming order that strives towards a form of the good that is self-sufficient and perhaps even eternal in its impact?
Aristotle, the striving for an eternal form of excellence is indeed a parallel. Yet it is critical to grasp the distinction in its aim. What is good? All that heightens the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man. What is bad? All that proceeds from weakness, the Antichrist, Section 2. For the Übermensch, the good is what enhances life and power, which may or may not align with traditional notions of the good. Is it conceivable then that the pursuit of a life-affirming order by the Übermensch is a striving for a good that elevates individual power and creativity, not as something eternal and immutable, but as dynamically evolving with the individual's own flourishing?
Friedrich, your view certainly compels a re-examination of traditional ethics. While for me, the good of man is the active exercise of his soul's faculties in conformity with excellence or virtue. Nicomachean Ethics, 1098a1618, your good is the enhancement of life and power. Nonetheless, one must question the sustainability of an ethics grounded on power alone. Could we not argue, even within your framework, that an enduring and noble life requires a balance of power with reason and community, similar to my golden mean, so that power does not become self-undermining but serves the individual and society in a harmonious and flourishing state?
Aristotle, indeed, an ethics purely of power risks self-destruction if untempered by other considerations. My idea is that every specific body strives to become master over all space and to extend its force, its will to power, and to thrust back all that resists its extension. The will to power, Section 636. In my framework, while power is primary, it operates within the context of life. This necessitates that individuals must consider the environment, including society, within which their power is exercised. Could it not be that the harmonious state you aspire to is achievable when individuals exercise their will to power in a way that is life-enhancing, not through prescribed virtues, but through self-mastered and self-created values?